Hey guys, and welcome to Petrol Ped. Now behind me is a press car I've wanted to get on the channel for a very, very long time. I did some very special things with it last year, but I've been waiting for one to be on press fleet, waiting to actually live with the car to see just what it's like and to put one very important thing to the test. Behind me is the Alfa Romeo Tonale. Now, I guess my journey with the Tonale actually starts at a festival of speed, I think in 2019, when this was just a concept. And I remember talking to one of the key designers of the Tonale, and I did a few bits of press with Alfa Romeo. But I first drove the car about a year ago. I flew out to Italy on the banks of Lake Como, and we drove the 160 horsepower hybrid Tonale. And then it was a real privilege at last year's Festival of Speed to drive the Tonale on its UK dynamic debut up the Festival of Speed hill climb. The 160 horsepower hybrid Tonale is a beautiful looking car. From the outside, it looks the same as this. For me though, it's just a bit underwhelming on the performance side of things. I'm sure it's fine for the average family that just wants a car to do the school run and you know, nothing too spirited on a driving point of view. But it's just a little bit underwhelming. Then we were told about the plug-in hybrid variant, and I went back to Italy, it's now about 7 months ago, to drive the plug-in hybrid version of the Tonale. And I even got the opportunity to drive it around Balocco, around the Alfa Romeo and Fiat test facility, and put it to its paces. If I remember rightly, I might have even set the brakes on fire. The difference between the standard hybrid and the plug-in hybrid is significant in terms of performance. But the other big difference is this is a plug-in hybrid, and it has the ability to run in hybrid mode, but also pure EV mode. Now, I'm going to put links in the description below and links above to the videos I've done with the car already. And this video isn't so much of a review. I've already done a film with the Tonale plug-in hybrid when I was in Italy, so you can watch that. But one of the things I really wanted to put to the test is, for me, I'm a big plug-in hybrid fan. I know they get a lot of grief. Some people say they're too much of a compromise. They're neither a good internal combustion engine car or a good electric car. They kind of don't do either of those two things well. I understand that argument. I don't necessarily concur with it though. One of the reasons I wanted to get this car as soon as it came on press fleet was the EV only range of the Tonale is one of the best of any plug-in hybrid you can buy, and I wanted to see if it's anything like what Alfa Romeo state. So in this video, I'm going to have a quick walk around the car right now, but in this video we're going to take it on an EV only range test a little bit later this week to see how it gets on. But let's just take a look from the rear three-quarter view of the car, because it's very, very pretty. Yes, it's certainly very Alfa Romeo at the front. The one bit I do struggle with a little bit with Alfa Romeo is because of the front grille, the number plate placement to the side of the grille. I still does my OCD a little bit, but I know it's Alfa and that's part of the charm, right? Rear end of the car is lovely. Now, the most common comments you get whenever you post pics of one of these is the fact that it's a kind of mid-size SUV. It's not that kind of Alfa Romeo sports car. But in this particular colour, this is the Veloce trim level with the diamond cut tele-dye wheels. I just think it's a very pretty looking car. It certainly has a kind of understated presence, and I like that a lot. Let's jump on the inside, show you the inside, and then it's time for the range test. Now, it's really nicely equipped in here. I've spent quite a lot of time in a Tonale on various press drives. They're very comfortable. The steering wheel, you look out over the steering wheel and it just makes you feel really special. With the Veloce trim level, you get the typical Alfa Romeo paddle shifters that are attached to the steering column and not to the back of the steering wheel. These seats look lovely. They've got a kind of mix of Alcantara and leather, and they've got the Alfa Romeo logo embossed and stitched into the headrest. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. Now, in terms of the range test, so this is a plug-in hybrid. The name gives everything away, plug-in. in an ideal world, you plug one of these into a wall box. Now, because the battery isn't so big in these, you wouldn't necessarily have to have a 7 kilowatt wall box at home. I do. So on that, this car's going to be charged in just a couple of hours. But I'm going to brim the battery, if you like, so that it's 100% charge, and then see how far we go. One of the features this car does have, though, is in the various drive modes. We'll talk about these when we're out and about driving. I have something called eSave. So yes, it's a plug-in hybrid. Yes, ideally you want to plug it in so every morning you'll have a full battery. Then you've got your options open to run as a hybrid, run as pure EV, and you can kind of maximize fuel efficiency. If you run out of battery during your journey and you're not able to plug it in, the eSave function in this car allows you to recharge the battery as you're driving along. Basically, the engine produces excess power, if you like, so it's going to drive you along the road and also at the same time drive a dynamo that's going to charge up the battery pack, so you can bring the battery pack up to a full state of charge. That's going to have a detrimental effect on your fuel efficiency, so your fuel consumption is going to go up a little bit, but it does mean you can recharge the battery when you're going along. For our range test, I'm going to basically stick it on my wall box, plug it in and get some juice in the battery, and then the day after tomorrow we're off. I'm actually going to do some filming with another car, and I'm going to use this car to get us there, and we're going to drive as far as we can on electric only and see just how far that is. Okay, spring forward a couple of days. Now I've had the Tonale on charge, so I should now, if I fire the car up, have 100% battery. 100% battery is showing me 37 EV only miles. So I'm going to put it in advanced efficiency mode, so you've got the DNA selector, dynamic, normal and advanced efficiency. That should keep it in all electric. I've reset the trip, and let's go for a drive and I'll explain what's happening while we get going. Let's see how many miles. Can I get 37 EV only miles out of the Tonale on EV only mode? Now that a few things have changed on my range test. Originally my plan was to drive over to my mate Ollie at Le Mans Coupes, and I was going to use that journey to do the all EV range test on the car. The weather's so sketchy, it's raining where Ollie is, so Ollie's actually bringing the car to me, so that means I haven't got a journey to go to. So what we're going to do is a round trip on some of my favourite roads to see just how far I can go on all EV. My approach to that all EV driving is basically I'm just going to drive it normally. I'm in advanced efficiency, so I'm pretty sure, I'm not going to try it because otherwise it will ruin my test. If I absolutely planted my foot, I'm pretty sure it will still stay in electric mode. But I'm going to try and not use the internal combustion engine for as long as possible. So I can drive in EV up to the national speed limit, which is 60 miles an hour currently. The performance of it in EV mode isn't a match to a pure electric vehicle. Even one of the slower electric vehicles, it's quite sluggish, even to get up to the top sort of speed you want to go to. But I'm guessing most of the time you'd be in this mode in a kind of urban environment, town run, where you want to keep your emissions low and your fuel consumption low. So if you're just running to, you know, the shops or to the school run or something. So that's the plan anyway. And I'm also not going to run the cameras for the entire journey, so I'm not going to keep the cameras running. I'll update you on a regular basis. So there is a little bit of a trust element going on with this review, but what I thought I'd do is talk to you a little bit about my week with the car so far while we're doing our 37-mile journey. By the way, 32 miles of range left and we're only 3 miles in. A couple of things. let me just talk a little bit about the e-save mode, which I mentioned when I was sat in the car. So I can go into e-save mode and basically charge the battery up as I'm driving along. And there's some settings on the infotainment system in terms of how much battery charge I'll put in e-save mode, whether I go up to 20, 40 or 80% or whatever. So you can configure that to however you want, rather than charging up to 100%. And that makes sense now, because when I was using it the other day, it started to charge up. It takes quite a long time to charge up. Then it got to kind of like 19 miles and kind of stopped. And then actually, even though we were in e-save mode, started to reduce. And that's probably because of the way the car was set up. So it is a useful mode, but to get the full 100% battery, you really do need to plug it in. The other thing I just wanted to talk about a little bit with my ownership was there are some really clever features. So I've currently got my mobile phone charging on the wireless charge mat just down here. Now, anybody, oh, now interesting, hold on a minute, let me just talk. So we're going up quite a big hill. I'm doing 40 miles an hour and the car is not struggling, but I'm having to depress the throttle quite a lot just to get me up the hill. It's not the most powerful EV only drivetrain, and again, not as comparable as having a pure EV. Anyway, back to the wireless charge mat. The challenge many of them have is you get a heat build-up in the phone. And actually, in some cases, my Mini used to do this, the phone will actually go into thermal shutdown because it gets so hot. What's quite clever about this charge mat is after about an hour of being on the charge mat, it actually switches off and you get a notification on the dash saying that the charge mat has shut down to basically cool the phone down to reduce the thermal shutdown. And it shuts down for, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 minutes and then comes back on again once the phone has cooled down sufficiently. And I think that's a really neat feature, because it means you don't have to worry about you thinking about your phone shutting down because it's going to get too hot. Okay, we are 10 miles into our journey and I have 20 miles of EV range left. So we've lost 7 somewhere. And I'm driving along at, you know, national speed limit. And I know that's probably, in terms of battery degradation and so on, that's the worst speed, because you're a higher speed, you've got all the aerodynamic drag and all that kind of stuff, but I'm doing a realistic journey as much as possible. And I know this test isn't massively scientific. I wanted to mention one thing that I discovered whilst using this car for a week, because I needed to use the boot space on Tuesday of this week. And what happened was quite interesting. Now, I've been playing golf today at the Hendy Golf Day, and I've bought the Tonale along. I just wanted to see if the boot's big enough for a set of golf clubs. And the simple answer to that is, it's not. I've had to actually drop the passenger seat down just to make enough room. So actually, I think that's a bit of a fail, to be honest, because this type of car, this segment, probably likely that people buying this are going to be playing golf, and you can't fit a set of golf clubs in the boot. So yeah, I can't believe that a vehicle of this target segment, you can't fit a set of golf clubs in the boot. It's such a target demographic for the kind of person who's likely to buy this car. They're very likely to play golf, or they're very likely to have kids and need to put a pushchair in the boot. Now, I didn't have a pushchair, but if you put a pushchair in this boot, it's going to fill it up. It really is. So the boot space is on the small side, but the fact I had to drop the rear seats down to put a set of golf clubs in is very disappointing. One thing that is nice though is when you get to a corner like this one, the front end feel, the steering, the way that the front end of the car set up is really nice, very sharp, very Alfa Romeo. So although its looks may not be sporty Alfa Romeo, although in EV mode it's a little bit sluggish on the throttle, when you get to a corner, in terms of balance, in terms of turning, in terms of steering feel, it's very, very Alfa Romeo. So when you put it into dynamic mode and you have the petrol engine and motor working together in full hybrid assistance, then it's a really sporty car. I'm not going to do this on this review. If you want to watch that, go and watch me driving it round Bolocco in Italy with my mate Steph AVTV, because we put it through its paces in a big way then. So we're now going through the very picturesque town of Petworth. absolutely love Petworth. But for me, this is where this kind of car comes into its own. I'm running in pure EV, I'm nice and quiet, I'm emissions free. It's what this kind of car is made for. Interestingly enough, I'm still making miles. So I'm 16.3 miles into the journey and I'm still showing an EV range of 19 miles. So we're kind of back up to that sort of 37-ish miles. Isn't that far off. So maybe that's an accurate number that I started off with. Maybe we're going to hit 37. Can't wait to see exactly what we do. But yeah, when you're in this type of environment, you're not accelerating particularly harshly, you're not going that quickly, so you don't have to worry about wind resistance and drag and those types of things. And this is where you get your most miles per kilowatt hour, if you like, if we want to use electric parlance. Interestingly, I'm currently averaging 75 miles to the gallon. I think that must be a default maximum number, because currently I'm averaging unlimited miles to the gallon because the engine hasn't actually fired up yet. I haven't used it at all, even though I've been driving some really nice roads up at the national speed limit. So we're going to hang a right here, I think, and go on another lovely driver's road, actually, the A272 over towards Wisborough Green, and we'll see how we get on. Still got 18 miles of range left. And this is a nice bit of road. If you were in, you know, something a bit fruity, we're now National 60. It's got lots of twists and lots of straights. It's a nice driver's road, this. One of the challenges a road like this poses when you're doing a range test is that you tend to accelerate a little bit more harshly, although you do brake more harshly, so you should get a bit more regen, but that tends to have a negative effect on your overall range. And that's why I hate doing range tests, because you have to be so conservative and so mindful of not driving too aggressively. But yeah, it's a cracking bit of road, but I don't think it's done a great deal to my range. Sit rep, 20 miles of my journey done, 13 EV miles of range left. So that should make 33 total miles, which is still pretty close to the estimate at the beginning. Let's see, maybe that was accurate. Okay, next milestone reached. We are at 10 miles of EV range, and we've completed 26 miles of driving. Interesting. Now, I'm on a loop now. I'm kind of heading back towards home now. Still on a National 60, but I'm gonna get onto some dual carriageway soon, because what I'm trying to do is a mix of different types of roads on this to give a fair and balanced view. We've done some kind of 40 miles an hour traffic heavy roads, we've done some 30 mile an hour villages and kind of creeping through places like Petworth. We've done some sporty B roads where I'm giving it a little bit of yahoo, and then we're going to finish off, hopefully, if I have enough range to get there, with a little bit of dual carriageway. And I figure that's a nice, fair and honest test. But yeah, oh no, 9 miles of range left now. 26.6 miles covered. I'm not sure I'm going to make it. That is now 0 miles showing. I'm still running on EV. I've done 33 miles and it's clicked out. Oh, it's back to 1. So it's clearly on that cusp of just enough charge in the battery pack to keep the electric motor going. The engine hasn't kicked in yet, and I've done 33 miles. Having never done this before, I'm presuming when it gets down to 0, there's 0, it's just moved into 0, still on electric. I'm wondering whether it's at now like 0.9 or 0.8, and it will keep going, still on electric. 0 miles showing. Unfortunately, I can't have a camera viewing there because I can't like hold my camera in front of it, and I couldn't work out a way of getting a camera to show you the dash nicely this morning. So you're just going to have to take my word for it. 33.6 miles, still no engine, still haven't had a petrol engine kick in yet. Now, obviously, if you're in an EV at this point, you'd be basically in massive trouble. Although a lot of electric cars, when they show 0 miles, they've still probably got 10% of the battery pack in reserve, because you don't really ever want to deplete your battery pack completely. And I'm guessing that's probably the same case with this car. Even though it's showing 0 miles, I would imagine there's more than 0% of the battery pack left. This could be a very long video waiting for what's going to happen next. 34.4 miles. Now, the thing I've got coming up ahead, I think, yeah. So this is called Berry Hill, and I've filmed coming up here a few times. The last time was in the aerial Nomad, actually, and I think the chances of me getting, there we go, advanced efficiency mode temporarily unavailable, battery too low, engines kicked in at 34.8 miles. There you go. And you can now hear the engine. So 34.8 miles is how many miles you're going to get out of a battery pack of one of these things. I'm pretty impressed with that, to be honest. Pretty impressed. Now, so it's now come out of advanced efficiency mode and kicked me into N mode, normal mode. And I'm now going to drive along on the petrol engine with very little hybrid assistance because there's no battery left. So I'm just on the petrol engine. So if I want to have to regain that battery, two options. I either hit the e-save button, which I'll do while I'm talking to you, and what now happens is I start to charge the battery as well as pull the car forward on the petrol engine, and then when I get home I need to plug it in. Now I find that fascinating. Please put in the comments below what you think of that. Slightly, in fact, what I am going to do here, just to show you kind of real time, this is a very small pulling in here. I'm going to pull in here, and in real time, just to prove to you, I'm going to get my phone off of its cradle and I'm going to fire it up. I'm going to go to video, and just so you know, here's my real-time video. Look, there's my camera setup, and there is my trip information. 35.6 miles, a total time of 1 hour and 4 minutes, and you can see here, if I just zoom in here, look, I've got 0 miles left on the if you like, the battery range. And then over here I've got 128 miles on the fuel range because I've got just under half a tank, but there you go. So that's me trying to be as open and as transparent as possible, nothing coming that way. So final thoughts of the Tonale plug-in hybrid. I think as hybrids go, it's a really good one. I love the fact that you can do 35 miles on pure EV running. I think for most people's commute, that's probably more than enough. I sometimes get comments on this, and what about the petrol engine? Now it's cold, it's firing up. If you don't think the engineers at Alfa Romeo or any plug-in hybrid car manufacturer thought about that already in terms of pre-warming and those types of things, you don't just fire up the engine from cold. But yeah, that pure EV running, it's quite sluggish and dead on the throttle. It feels almost like you're running an electric car in one of its efficient modes. So where they kind of deaden off the throttle mapping, and it's a much more sluggish acceleration. It feels a little bit like that when you're in pure EV mode. As soon as you fire up the petrol engine, you got much more response. Clearly I haven't got so much of that at the moment because I've got no battery to fire up the electric motors, because I've got a electric motor to help me. But I think all in all, it's a really good plug-in hybrid. I'd love to know your thoughts. I'd quite like a plug-in hybrid to give me a little bit more range than that, maybe even 40 to 50 miles, and I think you'd be absolutely perfect then. But 35 miles is pretty impressive. Anyway, I now got to drive back home. And then this afternoon I'm going to film with the Spartan, so that should be coming to the channel next week. Make sure you tune into that one, because there's no hybrids on that. That's just a whopping great big engine in a car that weighs about as much as one of my trainers. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Comments below are always welcome. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Petrol Ped for plenty more content to come, and I'll see you on the next film. Take care, guys. Drive safe.